Okay, hope you see our screen. So welcome to the 5th webinar in a series of our Starts for Africa webinars called the Success Factors. Little bit about the Starts for Africa project. The project is built up as a, let's say, standard STARTS project. For those who are familiar with the STARTS program, the STARTS program is a program of the European Commission under the Horizon pillar, and STARTS means science, technology, and arts. So it's a program meant for finding synergies in the intersection between science, technology, and arts. Our project has 5 pillars. The first one are the residencies, the Starts for Africa Prize, the Starts for Africa Academy. Those webinars are part of the Academy, and in late spring, beginning of summer, we will organize a series of training courses in the 5 African countries that are partners in this project. Those are Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, DRC, and Democratic Republic of Congo, and Tanzania. We are building up a community around the project, not just in those countries, but in all the countries in the African continent that are interested. I mean, not countries, but people, artists, producers, entrepreneurs in Africa and in Europe that are interested in the cross-continent collaboration and the silage of the project itself. So this is in short what the project is about. The today topic, it's about the 6 important success factors of a successful, more or less successful project. Of course, as the one who has been with me in the last webinar, we talk about how to build up, how to develop a good project. And of course, this is just theory in life. The projects are actually organisms that can have a will on their own, and a lot of time, even though we really did a good planning, the things doesn't go in a way we've planned them. So keep that in mind. But yes, there are some key points, some approaches that are really helpful in order to assure the project being as successful as possible. And I have always I'm saying this thing that a lot of time when we think about projects, when we construct projects, develop projects, we have this, let's say, register in our minds that it's really theoretical, and a lot of times we forget how to transfer this level of theory in practice. Why is this happening? Because a lot of projects, when we develop projects, especially when we develop and write project proposals for calls, we tend to respond to the needs and to the questions and to the challenges that the call is built around. And in this way, we somehow put ourselves in the position to obtain the project to be positively evaluated. And a lot of times we wrote things that are really good to read, but I wouldn't say that are not possible to realize in implementation. But the implementation side, it's not always on the first place when we are thinking about project development. But we can support ourselves in that way when we construct a project to keep in mind what are those 6 success factors, and to try to imagine ourselves implementing the project and keep an eye on that factors from the beginning, not just the implementation, but from the beginning of the development of the project itself. And those 6 factors are the results and impact of each project, the communication plan, the sustainability plan, the monitoring impact, and the monitoring impact methods, and how we are going to collect the data of the project or parts of the project. Now we're going to go in depth of each and every one of those. And I would like just to point out, if you have any questions, any comments, any critiques, just feel free to interact with us. Unfortunately, because we are sharing the screen, we see our own presentation, so we don't see your faces. The one of you that have the camera on, we see just small faces there. So please, if you want to interact, just turn your mic on and don't hesitate to say. I think that the best way to learn is to share experience. Even though me and Maya have a lot of, let's say, some kilometers behind us, we are not, we don't perceive ourselves as the holder of the absolute knowledge. And I think that we can learn from you as much as you can learn from us. So feel free to interact. Okay, let's go on the communication. I jumped one slide. No, the first slide. Okay.
Yes. So I will share with you a bit more about the effective and efficient communication. So yeah, as Borut said, like it would be very beneficial as well if you can share with us some practices that has happened to you in the past, because as well, like we have done a lot of projects, but we are always learning in the process as well, like what works well, what doesn't, and it really depends as well on from project to project to what kind of target group we are actually addressing our communication. But to start, like the most important thing is actually to identify the key stakeholders. So who are the ones that we want to pass the messages to? Sometimes this is our future donors or sponsors, or like the entities who are giving out the grants. Sometimes it's the people who we would like that they see in the end, like let's say our work or the final result of the project that we are making. But it's really important to really know well your target groups, because we can as well then, of course, like target the specific messages to specific target groups, as of course we are not communicating the same to somebody who wants to give us money than to, like, let's say, general public who just came to see the installation or the product of our project.
Mm-hmm. I would like to point out at this point that it's really important to really put an extra effort in identifying those stakeholders, because it's not just about the message you want to say or the way you will approach for communicate to them, but it's also like the language you will use and how you will form your communication approaches. For example, if you want to communicate a message to a wider audience, to that your target group or stakeholders are, I don't know, for example, students, and you want to talk about art and science, you will need to explain what art and science does mean, because otherwise people can imagine a lot of different things that art and science can mean. And you will have to clarify what is your perception of what art and science is, or what is the project perception or definition of what an art and science is, and what is your purpose behind communicating with them about art and science. On the other hand, if you will communicate with a partnership inside of a project dealing with art and science, probably you will not have to communicate what or clarify what art and science is. On the other way, if you will do it so, you can be perceived as redundant and or having a lack of confidence in the partnership, because you need to clarify for them what art and science is, and you can be perceived as arrogant, or you can be perceived that you don't respect the partnership. So it's really one of the crucial things about communication, to have in mind what your stakeholders are and how to approach them.
Yes, to continue, like determining as well, like what you aim to achieve through communication. So if your goal is to earn, like to gain more money, then of course, like you always need to put kind of like call to action, and also explain like how certain projects are maybe like solving a problem that is happening in the local community, or rather like addressing some important like, yeah, citizen question, or like something that really like changes something. So it's important to as well like take this into consideration, like how you communicate in the way, like what do you aim to achieve through this. And then also like identifying the key messages and like most appropriate communication channels for them. So this is a lot as well to focus about on, like, rather, I don't know, it's the web page where people can find information. Sometimes it's social media, but then as well to think about what kind of social media certain target groups are using. Sometimes maybe you invite people, like rather to exhibition or to some festival that you are doing, and your piece of work is exhibited there. So it's really important as well to think about whether you are sending them a letter with invitation, whether you are sending them an email with call to action, or whether you like publish the information that you want to reach to the direct stakeholders on the channels that they are actually using.
Yeah, I would like to add that those two steps, after you really properly identify the stakeholders, when you determine what the aim of your communication activities are, and those key messages can be defined as a way to obtain the aim, but you have to keep in mind that this aim, it's your agenda. It doesn't necessarily mean that your communication target will be easy with your communication target group or stakeholder will be easy to achieve this aim. And the communication channels are really, really important, because sometimes a communication channel can be an invitation for a coffee, and on a coffee with a specific stakeholder or representative of a stakeholder, you can solve much more than writing an email or a proper letter, official letter, or doing it on social media, and vice versa. Sometimes it's better to approach more indirectly, using a little bit of pressure. You have to keep in mind that everything that is done publicly can be perceived as a little bit some form of pressure. And one thing that you also have to keep in mind is that written communication, it's always read, and it's the perceivement is based on the reader, not on the person that wrote those communication. I will give you one easy example. Every time I'm working with this with my colleagues here in the office, if you receive an email that says, please, can you stop sharing those information? You can read this mail with a tone, please, can you stop to share this information? You will react with a frustration. On the other hand, you can read this mail as well with a tone, please, can you stop sharing this information? And it's totally another reaction you have. So keep in mind that even though you really clear out what your aim to achieve through communication is, and you find the right key message and the most appropriate communication channel, keep in mind the lettering, the writing you are doing, or the approach you are doing. At the end, as I said the last webinar, we are all human beings, and a person can have a bad day. That day they will read your message and the message will not be efficient. So communication is much, much more complicated than it seems from that graph.
Yeah, and then as well determining the frequency and timing of communication activities. We all know that certain periods are less appropriate to communicate than others. For example, I don't know, around New Year's, everybody is already in the festive mode, and if we have some very serious plans to achieve, December is probably not appropriate month. As well, it goes like with when we are sending certain messages, when we are addressing like the media as well. Like if we want that something is published like right away, then of course we need to think about like when to approach the journalists so that they will have time. So if, for example, we are approaching somebody who is working for the the news which is going out like once per month, then of course we have more time. But if like a person wants to do this next day, then of course like we need to really respect the deadlines that we agree with the people that we will send them the information. And as well, it goes the same with like how we are approaching people through certain channels, so that like we are not, for example, sending them like, I don't know, 15 emails on the same with the same information, but really like thinking about that like this has certain time period in between, that we inform them like regularly, but like not too regularly, so that we don't become invasive or annoying, so that we really think about all of these things in advance. And then as well, what is also very crucial is that we ensure that the communication has somehow like two-way communication, so that always at the end of this, however, like we want to communicate, there is this like call to action. So basically that we invite people to like give us like rather the feedback, what they think about our project, if they would like to meet us and have a coffee with us, or if they want to really like also, I don't know, share with us like some other possibilities that we have, like maybe for some other funding, maybe for something that can help us in the future. Maybe they know a stakeholder that we want to cooperate with in the future. So really like take all of these communication channels with the appropriate stakeholders as well, like as a gift to learn a lot. Because it happens to us many times that we are working on a project where we meet some people who says, oh, you know, I know this person who might be interested in your work. I really think that you should connect. And then we really do exactly this, like get the contact and then like approach people with like sometimes even like our portfolios, like, look, we are PINA, this is what we do if you would ever want to work with us, or we give them even like some concrete call to action. And what is as well like maybe last and really important about the communication, to somehow monitor and evaluate regularly how we communicate with in the framework of the project, because also from the people who are giving us money, so like also from some certain programs, this is one of the most frequent feedbacks, that the projects really need to be reported regularly, also like on all the channels that we are using. So in our case, for example, this is a web page, then we have a Facebook profile, Instagram profile, so that as well, like that we communicate with all of these stakeholders really regularly. And as well, like if of course this project is financed from like Horizon or whichever like different mechanisms of funding, that we always as well state that this was funded from certain programs, so that people are as well aware from what kind of background the money is coming to be able to implement the ideas. And the same goes as well with if we have like a private funding, that we always somehow express the gratitude to the funder who has financed our work.
I would like to just add to what Maya said, like an experience from the team. It's always like a question who will be appointed as a contact person, and with different stakeholders, this person can differentiate in a sense that we, a lot of time when we do the identification of the stakeholders and within the communication strategy, we can change things based on who the stakeholder, what the stakeholder is. For example, if we communicate with media, the head of PR would always be the contact person, but it doesn't mean that the PR manager will be the one who will be at the end the person responding in interviews or in, I don't know, radio news or in TV specials. We can define together with the PR manager. On the other hand, if the stakeholder is more content-wise important, the content person can be the project manager or the monitoring manager, depends on the impact and on what we want to achieve and how we determine what the aim of the communication is. So a lot of time we are using mailing lists. For example, the appointed contact, it's not name and surname at organization, but it's, I don't know, PR at organization or content committee at the mail of the organization of the content committee. Why that? Because in this way, every one of us will receive the mail or the content or the question, and we can decide among ourselves who will be responding. And also, it's a way how to be really efficient in time management, because usually when more people are involved, and if the protocol is clearly set up, it's easier and quicker. I don't know your realities, but Pina is working with around 20 projects simultaneously, so it can be really schizophrenic at some moments. So it's really fine to have defined the chain of communication as well. Okay, let's move on.
Yes. One of the key things as well when planning already in the preparation phase, it's also to think about the sustainability of the project. For us, it has become one of the most crucial things to really, like, of course, we are as well developing new things, but we really try to build them on somehow the heritage of the previously well done projects who were working well, and then try to like rather go deeper, do it with some other stakeholders, get connected with like rather universities or some other educational institutions, or sometimes even like with the local communities. And yeah, the first and the far most important thing would really be like using the project's result as well after the project end is crucial to maximize the impact and the value of the work that has been done, so that really like you can somehow always refer to like that's something that has been done in the past, we can now build on in the future. And for us, this has always been like, as we have started like for the first time, Borut will maybe say more about it, with the Intermedia Festival. This has really kind of like brought us to the map, or like to the agenda as well, of the important stakeholders in this intermedia art in the country in general. And that's how like we as well were able to develop and also ended up in the S+T+ARTS for Africa in the end, exactly on the basis of like what we have achieved in the past.
Yes, and of course, it's really, I mean, it's the thing that it's a little bit a simulation, or would rather say a dream to think now, when you're thinking about in the beginning of the development of the project, what the project results will be and how to implement them further. It's somehow speculative exercise, but it's really needed, because at the end, if you will not do so, you will not be able to foresee what the good project results can be, also from that optic. So keep in mind that a good project, it's always the one that have at least some of the results that can gain sustainability in the future. And every project and the project activities and the project results are somehow an experimentation. Means that, as I said in the beginning, it's a life form, and a lot of things that you will plan in the beginning will change during the implementation, and the results can be a way how to test some things even further. So you see that some approach can really be super helpful, but you didn't have time in this particular project to test it further, and can be another project can be used for testing it further. Or another example, some project approach activities can be really helpful in the theme of this project, but you figured out that this approach can be helpful also for other themes. And you can use the same activity, approach, or result to support another project that it's totally different content-wise from the project that the results came out, but you sensed, you felt, and you analyzed in the evaluation that can be helpful also in this other content frame. So there's a lot of thinking. I mean, I'm always preaching that planning is the key. The good planning, it's like 60% or 70% of a successful project. But unfortunately, in the world we're living and working, a lot of time it's going with the flow. but sometimes the flow it's not that calm as this road is. It's a little bit more bumpy.
Yeah.
And as I said, and I will repeat it as much as needed, this is theory, but practice can be different. That's why we are here. And I will say it again. And if you have other experiences or anecdotes you want to share with us, feel free to speak. Just turn on your mic and share your experiences, because our experiences are coming out of our small world, and the world is a huge place.
That's true. I also maybe thinking about like how to identify these opportunities to implement the project results in practice. We can as well give you like one concrete example. For example, this coming as well from the Ars Electronica, where we for the first time implemented a workshop which was on bioplastic and shrimp shelves. I think we have even shown you this like already in the first webinar we have had. But for example, the workshop was developed in the framework of the festival, of the summer school of the festival, but we have since then implemented it probably more than like 10 times now, because it has really become something that like it's quite a high demand for it. And we have really offered it like to the students from high school. We offered it to the cultural workers. We have promoted it on the television in the framework of what we do. So it's really like a lot of something that has been developed in the framework of Ars Electronica has now been disseminated like on various different channels, and has also achieved quite a lot of like very good feedback. And that's why it's also really important to properly document and present the results, share and disseminate them, especially when we are talking about installations that are maybe a bit more complex. I think there as well, especially it's really important like to have good photography, to have good photos after it, to really like add a story to everything, so that you can also then like later on add it to your portfolios if you are an artist. And the same goes with this, that really like do not forget that also like everything that you do, especially in the times when you get the funding, everything needs to be documented and also then like shared afterwards, so that people really see what we have done with the project money.
Yes, especially in the frame of the Science, Technology, Arts project. Please keep in mind that a project result, it can be, of course, an installation. It can be a prototype, and everyone and all of those results are when we are realizing them, we go through a path, and a lot of time, especially working with scientists, this path is really well documented, and the result can be also the documentation of how this approach went, or how the experimentation went, how the prototyping went. A lot of time, unfortunately, in the field of innovation and experimentation, the result, it's, let's say, less appealing than the path, than the experimentation. So a lot of time, the research behind this output, it's far more interesting than the outcome itself. So keep in mind that let's say a study, an analysis of the approach of the path can be as much interesting result as the, I don't know, prototype or the final installation. So I think that especially with the STARTS projects, this needed to be kept in mind.
And I think it comes very well exactly with this, what is written in the third part. So engage with others and use the project results as a basis for learning and continuous improvement. Because this is exactly like, to be really honest, not all of the projects work. And sometimes you also like from the failure learn exactly the mistakes you should not make anymore. So I'm always, whenever I'm running the project management courses, saying that like, yeah, I have implemented probably more than like 100 projects in my life, but I can really like talk about this because I have failed probably as many times as I have succeeded. And this is, I think, really important, exactly what Borut has pointed out, that like sometimes these paths that are leading to the project results, we learn a lot of things in a way, sometimes like what is good partnership, sometimes what is not good partnerships. sometimes what we have learned in the process of like using different materials, sometimes with how we need to communicate among our teams. So everything is basically like a basis for learning and then continuous improvement. So also I think it's really important that next to planning a follow-up, it's like really sitting together and actually like going through all the phases of what was done in a way that we were satisfied with it, what was not done in this way, and how we can actually improve it in the future. So that also after we have like the end of the project financing, after we have finished with what we wanted to achieve, that really as well think about like how we will do this in the future.
And of course, this is like, it brings us to the planning of the follow-up. So we need to plan in advance, or at least to think and reflect about what will happen after the project will finish. I mean, projects are a lot of time connected with fundings, and unfortunately, the obtaining of the funding is connected with innovation, with new approaches that somehow put ourselves in a way that we are not always able to continue something that we feel and that would be great to continue to develop, to research. But this can be a little bit of help if we know how to plan projects and how to plan projects in a way that at least some of the results will be in advance. We know that we can construct the follow-up on, I don't know, other calls, our other funds, or we will use, I don't know, internal resources of the organization to continue, or as Maya pointed out before with the workshop example, that we can, I don't know, use some of the outcomes and outputs of the project in order to develop activities that can stand on their own and can be, I don't know, offered on the market. And this is like one of the examples we are pointing out, the workshop we developed, but also the approach we are implementing right now, like the project management approach and activities and the content were developed under, I don't know, 3 or 4 projects ago, and we are like using this approach, developing it further, pointing out to different stakeholders and target groups. And every time we change something, but the base was developed, like I said, I don't know, 5-6 years ago in totally other project. And this also helped to support the organization itself, because planning new activities for each and every one of the projects doesn't really give sustainability to an organization itself. So it's everything, it's interconnected. Okay, let's move on. If someone wants to share some thoughts about sustainability. If no, we can move to monitoring, another really important factor.
Yes, this is one thing that also kind of brings us towards better results in the future, so that we really like take time and take actually like dedicate as well the human resources to the monitoring, because we all know that we live in a world which is well too fast, and that's why we sometimes don't put enough emphasis on this, like how to monitor the progress. And we would say that it's really crucial to identify areas for improvement, and also like ensuring the accountability and transparency. So to really be aware like how we are using, especially when we are talking about the public money, how we are using this money, like to what kind of outcomes we are we are getting out of it, like what kind of target groups are actually benefiting from it, so that we really take into consideration how we will monitor this impact through the project that we are working on. We have, okay.
Yeah, we can do that. The first approach is, of course, to really clearly define what are the key indicators for monitoring the impact. And those key indicators can include quantitative and qualitative data, outcome and impact indicators, and of course the stakeholder feedback. One of the really important approaches to when we are developing the project, to define in advance those key indicators and define in advance how we will obtain the data for measuring and monitoring those indicators. A little bit about that later on. But as we said a lot of times, it's the project is in organic form that change during the implementation, and quality monitoring, quality done monitoring can influence a project, because we will find out that some things doesn't work as we planned, and we can reshape the activities in order for the project to work better. And one of the main points is, again, our dialogue and our relation with our stakeholders, and the stakeholders involved in the activities, or at least in the activity results. If we find out during the implementation of the project, if we monitor regularly, we can reshape the activities in order to obtain bigger impact with stakeholders and with activities of the project itself.
Yeah, there is as well, like, why does it help to us? So monitoring and evaluation help address challenges by identifying like the bottlenecks, enabling actually these timely adjustments, and also supporting adaptive management. We have had a lot of cases where we have had wonderful partners, or it's still happening to us, wonderful partners doing great work, but then they are always late. And this is, for example, one of the things, like as Borut has mentioned, we are running 20 projects, and when the first project, it starts to happen to us that is delayed, this of course also changes kind of the dynamics of our other projects. So that's why it's really important to like sit together from time to time to really like set the clear goals, and then also like do the follow-ups so that we really like establish the mechanisms how we can then like solve these problems if there are the delays and everything. Of course, like life happens, but it's as well really important to really like follow the agreements that we have done with our partners. And here it goes as well, like the best practices for this. It's really important to have the clear goals. So if we say that we will involve, I don't know, like 2 experts in technology for creating like a VR experience to talk about the climate change, it's really important then that we really have this, like how many people we will involve, what kind of things we need in order to be able to implement that, who will take over what, how we will create the basis for it, who will be the one programming these things, and then also like to how many people, for example, we want to disseminate what we have achieved in the process. So it's really like also then selecting relevant indicators, ensuring that we are producing something which has a good quality, and then also like that we know where to find the stakeholders who will actually be interested into our product. This is like one of the most crucial things.
And of course, during the monitoring, as we said in the communication part, it's of crucial importance, the communication with the stakeholders. And if we want to build up a process that it's collaborative, that has transparency, this communication, it's really important. Why? Because it's not just about receiving feedback from the stakeholders. It's also knowing how to describe the role to the stakeholders and how to read those feedbacks properly, because we are implementing a project, we plan the project, but we cannot really demand from the stakeholders that they know the project, they know the implementation, they know every little detail as we know it. So we need to be clear what we are asking them. And as I said, in the communication, it's always hard to be as clear as we want to, how to interpret the feedbacks of the stakeholders. If something doesn't work out, it's not just because we are doing it wrong. We need to be capable of a good analysis of the results of the feedbacks in order to be capable to reshape or to adjust the project activities. Okay, another crucial thing connected with monitoring and the impact methods.
So the methods, how we actually collect all of this monitoring. So first of all, as we have said, we really need to clearly define project objectives and outcomes. We need to really kind of establish the key performance indicators, because if we have key performance indicators stated out on the level when we are preparing, it's as well much easier than afterwards to measure them. And with good key performance indicators, you can as well in the end actually see how successful you were in certain parts, and you can really go through them and also like evaluate like what needs to still be done. So it's much easier to monitor, develop a comprehensive monitoring and evaluation plan. Here, I would also like to point out, because it's very much connected as well, like with seeking for the feedback of stakeholders and use it for further reference. It's really sometimes important to get external evaluator of the work we are doing, because we get stuck very often into this, that like we are doing something our own way. Of course, we are always doing it more or less the same. Of course, we learn from the past. But then again, like having an external evaluator sometimes means to gain a new perspective. That's why it's really important to give the space to people who maybe don't know us that well, because sometimes they can give us really good advices how to improve certain things. So like external evaluator is not somebody who will then like sort of like punish us for what we are doing, but is a person who will help us to get better, basically. So it's sometimes very good to get an external help as well.
And I would like to emphasize the fact that the monitoring and evaluation plan doesn't need to be, let's say, nuclear physics
No.
PhD. Yeah, it needs to be clear. It needs to be helpful. We tend in the project partnership, especially the big one, to point out, to appoint people that are good on their fields, and they're experts, but they tend to have this expert a lot of time academic relation with the document, and a lot of time I saw a lot of monitoring and evaluation plan that were too complicated, and at the end it finished like that. Those plans are just kept in on the desks and they are not implemented. It's a pity. It's better to have just a few steps, but those steps really a reference about the implementation of the project, and as Maya said, that can be useful in order how to do the project better, rather than to have this state-of-the-art document that will be used just for the financiers, just for reporting, saying we did a monitoring plan that has 20 pages and has a lot of theory and look like a space shuttle, but it's useless.
Yeah, and also here, like collecting and analyzing the data regularly to track progress and impact. I think this is one of the most important methodologies, actually, because I can give you again like a great example. We are now working on the project with libraries, and we have promised to the in the project that we will, for example, give 100 hours of mentoring, that we will implement like 40 local events. And for this, we really need to track down and see approximately like with how much time do we have to still fulfill all of these processes. So to collect, and we are collecting all the time the data, we are all the time analyzing where we are, how many people we still need to reach, and how many support we can still, of course, like give in the framework of the project to what we have promised in the project. So it's very important to kind of regularly check all of this and track the progress and what kind of impact we have.
And about how to collect and analyze data.
Yes. So with collecting data, it's really like, again, like we need to collect the qualitative and quantitative feedback. So it's very good that in the framework of whatever we do, if we have an exhibition, that we ask people how this was for them, what kind of feelings it brought, what made them think about, for example. Of course, like it's really important to gather this somewhere where we can then like as well analyze it. And on the other hand, we as well like sometimes need to report how many people came to the exhibition, or like how many I don't know, scientists we have involved in the process of a mean that we wanted to research.
Yeah, I mean, and this is also connected with the second point that we need to define specific data needs aligned with project goals. Sometimes qualitative approach is better for, I don't know, the outputs of the activities, or the outputs, the result as put it as outputs. As Maya said, the number of people involved, the number of workshops, the number of activities. On the other side, we can, it's really good to monitor the outcomes as well. And this can be a little bit more abstract, and it's better to use qualitative approaches. For example, doing target groups or doing interviews. But don't forget that one thing that we all time forget, and it's really like crucial to define those indicators, if they can be measured just after the activities, if it makes sense, or it's better to have like a starting point, like a pre-activity evaluation starting point, and then measure this after the implementation. Because if you will ask people how is the difference between like your knowledge before and after, it's something. But if you will measure, I don't know, how many times, like for example, the word science technology, it's used in a frame of like after a workshop with teachers in school. If you will not have data to compare with, it doesn't make sense if you will measure after your workshop, because you will figure out, I don't know, in 1 hour of educational program in the school, science technology was mentioned 3 times. Is this more or less before the teacher was part of the workshop? And this is like really a crucial approach. So when you are planning the collection of data, plan, and it's really depends on what the indicator is, and you need to know if you need to do like a ex post and ex ante analysis.
And it's also this exactly connected as well with selecting appropriate data collection methods, and also designing clear and concise data collection tools. It's sometimes it can be even like a voice recording of the feedback that you can get from the rather like participants of the workshop, or sometimes like the people who are attending the exhibition. So from the visitors, so really like think about if sometimes like you want to have numbers, and then on the other hand, you want to have stories. And you can do this as well, like in various ways, like what we have done now, for example, in one of our latest festivals that we have had, is we have asked people like to share with us like the photos of how they have seen the festival. And it was really, I'm sorry, thank you. It was really interesting as well to see like how everybody's actually seeing the festival from different perspectives of their own. So like this is exactly what we are seeking, like to get different opinions and different data that we can then later on as well like build the future programs with. And here it goes as well, like with this, like providing a training to data collectors for consistency, so that somehow in the start of a project, we all sit together, like all the partners, all the stakeholders, and really like discuss all of this, like what we want to have as the way how we will collect all the data, so that it doesn't happen to us that in the end the project ends, but we didn't think about like how we want to kind of gather all of the informations.
And what Maya said before, it's always helpful to involve in data collection as well. Let's call them externals, even though they are part of your team, but persons that are not involved directly in the implementation of the project. Why? Because especially with qualitative analysis, the persons that are strongly involved in the project implementation can somehow influence the data collection. Because if someone said to you, for example, if you do sorry, I lost my word. Like a group evaluation, and someone say to you, like a forum, and someone said to you, like, I don't know, I didn't hear nothing about the projects. You will like really react energetically with your with blood, because you gave 2 years of your life to this project, and will not be able to keep the right posture towards that kind of feedback, because every feedback is valid. But like I said before, you need to analyze it properly. But if you will influence the persons you're working with, you will not get good results. You will get, let's say, bad results, because they will be under your influence. So use different team members, or even though when the project are so big, even though use external organizations or institutions, they have the capability and the knowledge how to do it properly. And if you will decide to use them, talk to them from the beginning, not just when the project is already confirmed, but they will support you also in the planning of the project.
So, yeah, we have come to the Q&A section. If you have any kind of questions for us, like, feel free to do it. You can always contact us on our 2 emails, which are stated here. You as well are receiving the emails from us, so we are very open as well for the cooperation. Also, we will for sure, like as Borut has mentioned in the start, we are starting as well on this, like, building the community, where it doesn't matter from which country you are coming from, but we really want to build a community where this approach of the crossroad of science, technology, and arts is coming together to do some, like, mutual benefits for society. So we are open for collaboration.
Of course, I will stop the screen sharing for a moment, but we are all together back in our virtual room. So if anybody has a question, you can turn on your mics, or you can also put the question in the chat, or comment, or critique, or share experience, or just a good thought, or frustration. We are here all together to support each other, so feel free to share. Yeah, of course.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing the useful tool. I have a question about the data quality. I'm not sure if I understand it's right. Like, you say in the presentation that the data quality is quite important. But for example, if like I collect some feedback in the exhibition, like maybe the visitor can write feedbacks on the paper, and it is not clear for me that for example, how can I say if this data is with quality or this is not quality? Like, do I explain my question well, or
Yeah, I mean, I think that the first thing to point out that is, I think that if I understand you right, it's not about the quality of the data, but it's the qualitative and quantitative feedback. So there are 2 methodological approach. So, for example, in collecting feedbacks for your exhibition, the quantitative feedback would be counting the people that came to visit. The qualitative feedback would be, yes, asking them to write a feedback, to express their, I don't know, feedback, their emotion, their impressions. This is like a qualitative approach. The quantitative approach is just numbers, it's just the number of the persons. And I would say, to continue with that, that every data collected, it's a quality data, because at least you have something to work with. So a lot of time it happened that, as we said, we can proper planning everything, but at the end, because during implementation it's a mess, and then you don't really collect data the way you wanted to, but at least you managed to do something, and this needs to be included in the analysis of the data. So it's always like a feedback, it's always good, but just you need to put it in a frame that supports the analysis of the project.
Yeah, I think maybe like also it's very subjective, objective thing actually, like especially when because I think certain projects can really have this quantitative point much more pointed out than, you know, like in the exhibition, for example, maybe it's the number of the people who are attending the exhibition, but this is also like it's just a number. But then like also, I don't know, getting a quality feedback from somebody who is a professional in your field and has said that like your art is amazing, then like this is something else, I would say.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, if anybody has another, I will respond. We received. Could you give an approximate timeline for each of the stages? Oh, it's really a quite delicate question, because it really depends. It really depends. I mean, if you talk about the stages of the five criteria we explained, I mean, evaluation can be done really quickly. The evaluation plan can be done quickly as well, but it depends on how you know the methodologies and how you well know the project planning. So it can really depend on from, let's say, a couple of weeks, or it think of at couple of hours. So it's, do you have some, I don't know, some more concrete question or?
Thumbs up.
Okay.
Yeah, Thomas, if you have maybe like concrete examples that you would like to get feedback on, you can as well just write to us and we can meet on Zoom or something else so we can help you to support you.
Yes, and now we're responding to Christiana that asked us about the time frame of the webinars itself. Christiana, unfortunately, it was communicated that it's GMT +1, not a GMT. So we started an hour earlier, but don't worry, because the webinar is recorded and it will be published in a couple of days on the STARTS YouTube channel, and also spread in the STARTS Facebook page, so you can you can watch the webinar from the beginning.
If we don't have other questions, I would thank you very much for your attendance. We would as well invite you for the last webinar that will happen on 9th of January. We have, yes, we have on the 9th of January 2024, again, 3:30 GMT +1. We will talk about the financing possibilities. So feel free to join us to learn more about it very soon. And in between, we wish you a happy December and good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. It was really kindly of you to joining us.